The biggest lie about self-control. You've probably blamed yourself for not having enough willpower. You start Monday determined to change your life. But by Wednesday, you're scrolling on your phone, skipping the workout, or putting off the one task you knew mattered most. Here's the surprising part. Scientists who study decision-making have found that self-control isn't a fixed trait. It changes throughout the day, influenced by mental fatigue, your environment, and the habits you've already built. That means the problem isn't simply that you're not disciplined enough. The people who seem incredibly disciplined aren't constantly winning battles against temptation. In many cases, they've built lives where those battles happen far less often. They don't rely on endless self-control because they don't have to. They use a different strategy, one that quietly removes friction before it becomes a fight. In T's video, you'll discover the shortcut that makes discipline feel less like a daily struggle and more like an automatic response. But before that shortcut can make sense, you need to understand why trying to become mentally stronger every single day may actually be keeping you trapped in the cycle you're trying to escape. The hidden cost of depending on willpower. Most people think discipline is about making better decisions. In reality, it's often about making fewer of them. Behavioral scientists have found that your brain is constantly trying to conserve energy. Every conscious choice you make, whether it's deciding what to eat, answering another notification, choosing between two tasks, or resisting the urge to check social media, consumes a small amount of mental effort. None of these decisions seem important on their own, but together they quietly drain the resources you are planning to use for the work that actually matters. That's why you can feel incredibly productive during the first hours of the day and completely different by the evening. It's not because your goals suddenly became less important. It's because your brain has spent hours solving hundreds of tiny problems that never felt like problems at all. This creates a dangerous illusion. When you finally avoid the workout, postpone your project, or give in to another distraction, it feels like a personal failure. You tell yourself you need more self, but often your self-control has been working non-stop since the moment you woke up. Psychologists who study habits have noticed that highly disciplined people don't spend their days making heroic choices. They remove many of those choices before the day even begins. Instead of asking themselves what they should do every hour, they create routines that answer the question in advance. Think about how much mental energy disappears into unnecessary decisions. Should you exercise before or after work? What should you wear? Should you answer that message now or later? Should you start with the easy task or the difficult one? Every unanswered decision becomes another silent tax on your attention. The surprising part is that your biggest obstacle may not be temptation itself. It may be the endless stream of decisions that leaves you too mentally exhausted to resist temptation when it finally appears. So why do some people seem to move through the day without constantly fighting themselves? The answer has almost nothing to do with stronger willpower and everything to do with a strategy that most people never notice. The shortcut nobody talks about. Reduce decisions, not temptation. The real shortcut to discipline is not learning how to resist more. It is designing your day so resistance is needed less often. People who consistently perform at a high level do not leave every important action open to negotiation. They decide in advance when they will work, where they will train, what they will eat, when they will check messages, and which distractions will be unavailable during focused periods. Bedoink these. They reduce the number of moments in which the brain can choose the easier option. Studies on habit formation show that behavior becomes more consistent when it is connected to a stable cue. A specific time, place, or previous action tells the brain what comes next. This is why I will exercise more as weak, while I will train at 6:30 after changing out of my work clothes is far more effective. One requires a fresh decision. The other activates a prepared sequence. This is the shift most people miss. Sustainable discipline is created before the moment of action. It is created when you arrange the conditions around that action. Prepare your clothes the night before. Keep distracting applications blocked during work hours. Place your phone outside the room. Use the same desk for focused work. Decide your first task before going to sleep. Keep simple meals available so hunger does not become an excuse. Remove unnecessary notifications before they interrupt you. None of this looks impressive. That is exactly why people underestimate it. They search for intense motivation while ignoring the quiet systems that make motivation less necessary. The goal is not to build a life with no temptation. That is impossible. The goal is to prevent every temptation from becoming a debate. When the correct action is already prepared and the distracting action requires extra effort, your environment begins making decisions on your behalf. But even a perfectly organized environment can fail when your own mind starts offering convincing reasons to break the system. And those reasons often sound so logical that you do not recognize them as sabotage. Your brain is constantly negotiating with you. Have you ever noticed that your excuses always sound reasonable in the moment? I'll start after lunch. I deserve a short break. 5 minutes won't hurt. I'll be more productive tomorrow. None of these thoughts feel like they feel like good judgment. That is exactly what makes them so dangerous. Experts who study human decision-making explain that your brain is constantly comparing immediate comfort with future rewards. The problem is that immediate rewards almost always feel more valuable because they can be experienced right now. The benefit of finishing a difficult project next week is abstract. The pleasure of opening your favorite app takes less than a second. This is why discipline rarely collapses because of one major decision. It breaks down through dozens of tiny negotiations that happen almost automatically. Every time you entertain the debate, your brain looks for evidence that the easier option is justified. The longer the conversation continues, the more likely you are to lose it. This is why successful people often follow a simple rule. They avoid negotiating with themselves. When it's time to work, they begin. When it's time to train, they move. They don't wait for certainty or enthusiasm because they know the mind can manufacture endless arguments against effort. Behavioral psychologists have observed that delaying action strengthens hesitation. Each postponed decision teaches the brain that discomfort can be escaped. Over time, avoidance becomes the default response, and the mind starts offering excuses even faster. The opposite is also true. When you consistently act before the internal debate grows, your brain gradually learns that action is the normal response. The negotiation becomes shorter, weaker, and eventually much less frequent. This doesn't mean you'll never hear the voice telling you to quit. It means you'll stop treating that voice like an advisor. You'll recognize it for what it is: a prediction machine trying to protect you from short-term discomfort, even when that protection keeps you stuck. The next step is even more powerful because it doesn't rely on winning these mental negotiations. It changes the odds before they ever begin by making the right choice dramatically easier than the wrong one. Make good habits easier than bad ones. Most people try to make themselves stronger. High performers make the right behavior easier. That may sound too simple to matter, but research on habit formation consistently shows that small changes in effort have a surprisingly large impact on what people actually do. Your brain naturally moves toward the option that requires the least amount of energy. It isn't asking, which choice is better? It's asking, which choice is easier right now? This is where most productivity advice fails. It assumes you'll always make the rational decision. But when you're tired, stressed, or mentally overloaded, convenience beats intention far more often than people realize. Imagine coming home after a long day. Your workout clothes are already laid out. Your water bottle is filled. Your shoes are by the door. Starting requires almost no thought. Now imagine the opposite. You have to find your clothes, charge your headphones, clear space to exercise, and decide what workout to do. Each extra step gives your brain another opportunity to say, maybe tomorrow? The same principle applies everywhere. Leave a book on your desk instead of inside a drawer. Keep unhealthy snacks out of sight while placing healthy food where you immediately see it. Put your phone in another room during deep work. Block distracting apps before your focus session begins. Prepare tomorrow's task list before you finish today so you never start the morning wondering what deserves your attention. None of these actions require extraordinary discipline. They reduce what behavioral scientists call friction. Every unnecessary obstacle lowers the chances of a good habit happening. Every unnecessary obstacle added to a bad habit lowers the chances of repeating it. If checking social media takes 1 tap while opening your project takes 5 steps, your environment is quietly training you to procrastinate. Reverse that equation, and your environment begins training you to focus instead. This is why lasting change often looks invisible from the outside. It isn't built through dramatic bursts of motivation. It's built by making the desired behavior so accessible that repeating it becomes the path of least resistance. But even the best designed system has one weakness. If you keep believing you must feel motivated before taking action, you'll still hesitate at the exact moment when progress matters most. Stop measuring discipline by motivation. One of the most expensive mistakes you can make is waiting to feel motivated before you begin. It sounds logical. If you feel inspired, you'll work harder. If you don't, you should probably wait until you're in the right mindset. The problem is that your brain doesn't operate that way. Researchers who studied dopamine regulation explained that dopamine is closely tied to anticipation and progress. Many people assume motivation comes first and action follows. In reality, action is often what creates the motivation they were waiting for. Think about how many times you've resisted starting a task, only to find yourself completely focused 20 minutes later. Nothing magical happened. The task didn't become easier. Your brain simply received evidence that progress was happening, and that progress made continuing feel more rewarding. This is why the first few minutes are usually the hardest. Your brain is comparing the certainty of immediate comfort with the uncertainty of future rewards. Once you begin making progress, that calculation starts to change. Every completed step makes the next step feel slightly easier. Over time, this creates a powerful feedback loop. Action generates progress. Progress strengthens dopamine-driven anticipation. Increased anticipation makes future action feel less difficult. Momentum begins replacing resistance. Highly disciplined people understand this. Even if they never describe it in scientific terms, they don't ask themselves, "Do I feel like doing it?" They ask, "What's the smallest action I can take right now?" Starting the document, reading one page, putting on running shoes, writing the first sentence. These actions seem insignificant, but they accomplish something much bigger than the task itself. They shift the brain from hesitation into movement. The longer you wait for the perfect emotional state, the more control your emotions gain over your behavior. The faster you learn to act, despite uncertainty, the less influence those temporary feelings have over your decisions. This is why discipline often looks effortless from the outside. People assume disciplined individuals have endless motivation, when in reality they've stopped depending on motivation altogether. And there's one final shift that transforms all of this into something sustainable. It's the moment you stop asking how to become more disciplined and start becoming the kind of person for whom disciplined actions simply feel natural. Identity is stronger than willpower. Every habit you repeat is answering a question you rarely ask yourself. Who am I? Most people focus on changing their actions while leaving their identity untouched. They say, "I want to work out more. I want to stop procrastinating. Or I want to be more productive." Those goals matter, but they still describe something outside of who they believe they are. Psychologists who study long-term behavior change have noticed a consistent pattern. Lasting habits become much easier when they reinforce a person's identity instead of constantly fighting against it. If you see yourself as someone who always quits when things get difficult, every setback feels like proof that you're right. But if you begin seeing yourself as someone who finishes what they start, each completed action strengthens that belief. This doesn't happen through positive thinking alone. Your brain trusts evidence more than promises. Every time you choose to read instead of scrolling, train instead of skipping, or complete an important task instead of delaying it, you are casting a vote for a new identity. One decision won't transform you. Hundreds of repeated decisions gradually will. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A single day of perfect discipline doesn't convince your brain that you've changed. Repeated actions over weeks and months slowly rewrite what feels normal. Eventually, the behaviors that once required effort begin to feel like the obvious choice because they match the person you believe yourself to be. Notice the difference between these two thoughts. I have to exercise today. I'm someone who doesn't miss workouts. The first depends on daily motivation. The second reflects identity. When behavior aligns with identity, resisting the habit starts creating more internal discomfort than performing it. This is the point where willpower stops carrying the weight by itself. Your environment supports you. Your systems reduce unnecessary decisions. Your actions generate momentum, and your identity keeps everything moving in the same direction. Once those pieces begin working together, discipline no longer feels like a constant fight. It becomes part of your default behavior. The people who win use less willpower, not more. At the beginning of this video, you are told one idea that challenges everything most people believe about discipline. Your biggest problem isn't a lack of willpower. It's relying on willpower for things it was never designed to handle. Every day, you force yourself to make the same difficult decisions. You're asking your brain to win the same battle again and again. Sometimes you'll succeed, sometimes you'll fail. That's the nature of a system built on constant resistance. The people who create lasting results play a different game. They don't spend their lives proving how mentally strong they are. They build routines that reduce unnecessary decisions. They shape environments that remove distractions before they become temptations. They take small actions before motivation appears. And over time, they become the kind of person who naturally protects the habits that define them. None of this happens overnight. There isn't a secret switch that suddenly makes discipline effortless. What changes is the direction of the effort. Instead of using all your energy to fight yourself every day, you invest that energy in building systems that keep working long after motivation fades. The next time you catch yourself saying, "I just need more willpower," stop for a moment and ask a different question. What can I change so that the right choice becomes the easiest choice? That single question can completely change the way you approach productivity, focus, health, and every habit you want to build. Your brain will always seek comfort. That part will never disappear. But comfort doesn't have to lead you away from your goals when your environment, your routines, and your identity all point in the same direction. Progress stops depending on how inspired you feel on a particular day. Remember this: whenever you think disciplined people are simply stronger than everyone else, the strongest people aren't the ones who resist temptation every day. They're the ones who built a life where temptation has fewer chances to win. If you start building that life today, you'll discover that the shortcut was never about finding more willpower. It was about needing less of it.